Hey folks, welcome to the Shut Up and Do It podcast, the place you can come and hang out with us while we go through all things real estate with a focus on bringing you top quality topics and speakers, all who believe in a get it done manner. I'm your host, Nick Allerud, creator of the Complete Deal Flow System and a principal with AA Real Estate Group, and I function as educator and active single family and multifamily real estate buyer in the Boston area and beyond. I am super stoked today to have my friend and our guest, Mr. Nathan Brooks. He's from Kansas City. He is an active investor. He has a whole turnkey, like a massively honed in, systemized turnkey business that he runs. Former musician. That's an awesome transition there. But I'm going to let you talk about yourself. Nathan, thank you so much for being on the show, man.
Hey, Nick, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate being on the show and appreciate you. We've had a lot of fun getting to know each other and looking forward to the time today. So
you got it. Awesome. Do you want to start by just kind of telling us a little bit about yourself, your journey, and how you got to where you are?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. So Nathan Brooks, I am out of the Kansas City market and my business is located here. I have a beautiful wife and two kiddos, and we live on our dream place. We have 11.5 acres and a beautiful home. And so I love doing anything chainsaw, tractor, shotgun, whatever related. And so in our real estate business, we have 10 full-time staff people, and we are on track to do 120 plus turnkey houses in 2019 and 80 plus wholesale deals. So our big fat number is 200 deals for 2019. And so we have a couple different portions of our business. We have our bridge turnkey, which is our turnkey operation. And we really specialize in having a really high caliber product. So there's a lot of, quote unquote turnkey companies out there, and, everyone has a place, every property has a buyer, right? But our focus is on really, really highly renovated properties. So you're basically buying a totally renovated, kind of an MLS retail type rehab, but then we place the tenant, we pre-inspect it, we do all the repairs, and then we back it up with a warranty. So that's kind of our niche. So we give a 12-month warranty on our properties. So that's the turnkey side. And then we also have a retail division, and just recently hired another killer realtor. And so our target's 25 million or so in retail sales for 2019. And then literally just a month and a half ago, started a meetup. So a bridge real estate investing meetup. And I was talking to Adam Adams the other day, who runs a huge meetup in Denver. And he literally said to me, he's like, I've never heard of anything like this before. I don't know how you did it. But we literally have almost 1,400 people in our Facebook group in like 5 weeks. And we had almost 100 people show up at the first one. And we have over 300 people and almost 10,000, not paid for, not sponsored, connections and views on the January one. So pretty crazy on the meetup.
Dude, that is amazing. Fantastic. Kudos to you, brother. Having done that too, that's not easy.
There's a lot to it for sure. So we're excited, and we have some amazing speakers lined up for that, and the community online there too. And so really, and if you're out there listening, the goal is 1,750 by the end of January members in there, and 10,000 by the end of the year. So if you want to get after it and talk real estate with some folks, it's definitely a good place to do it.
Nice. Fabulous. Why don't we talk about how a professional musician got into the real estate game? I love that. And what got you into music too? That was your passion when you got out of school, or?
It was my passion since I was a little boy. So I remember distinctively, and I don't have a lot of memories either. So it's not something that I have this recall of a bunch of stuff growing up, which is a blessing and a curse, right? And even in business now. So if something bad happens, it's like that quarterback, right? We have the next down. We got to get to the new play, not think about the old play. But for me, fifth grade, I saw the string bass in the corner in the orchestra room, and I was like, holy cow, this thing is killer. So I remember my folks, driving this stupid string bass around in the back of the Ford Taurus, fifth grade. And so I ended up going through, playing through high school and playing piano and playing string bass and then bass guitar, and then taught myself guitar in college and taught theory at the university with kind of the intro program to help, freshman theory, and toured and did both like the bad, late night band bar gigs, and also, had the blessing of being a worship leader at one of the largest, the largest United Methodist church in the U.S. and third largest in the world. So it's pretty cool. There's a lot of adventure and joy in playing. So.
Wow, that's incredible. All right. So what led you into your real estate career at that point?
When I was a little kid, I love like going to the construction sites, and I didn't realize that was a thing back then, but you don't always have access to like these, new construction jobs and stuff. And so I'd go, ask the guys if whatever, things I could pick up or whatever, 2x4s and whatever I could go get. And so I would start just building stuff. I was not a very good carpenter either, to be clear. So that is not my gift, but I love doing it and I love the creativity of it. And I always loved kind of seeing from the side of like, okay, well, here's this opportunity. Here's this, property that needs help. And, how do we put it back together and see what others can't see, and therefore be able to, put them together. So that was the joy for me. And I literally met some people in a having lunch with my, I think, girlfriend, who is now my wife of 12 plus years, and overheard some conversation. And like 3 weeks later, I'm in quote unquote business with this guy, which was a nightmare in of itself, and many horrible things that came out of that, but also many lessons. And so the first day I bought a house, I bought two, and I ended up, having this incredible construction crew made up of people I had found from the day labor place down the street. And it was a complete disaster. So that was my entry into real estate. Went
Wow.
really well.
Yeah, gotcha. Through those challenges. So that was that just one deal or one partnership that kind of went?
Oh no. I definitely kept buying. Somehow I figured out how to, I've never had a problem buying houses. It's always everything else, like renovating them and having a clear process and make sure the scope of work is right. And, leading your team. It's crazy. All those crazy things like that.
Oh, that's awesome. There's Nathan, you and I are in a mastermind together, and one of the Nathan did an amazing presentation the last time I was there on leadership itself. Really took a whole different tone in the whole room too, as far as, when you get to a certain level in your business, right? You're no longer really trying to get day laborers and bang through a scope of work, or even try to. I mean, like you said, anyone can buy a property. It's executing on a vision or an exit plan or whatever.
Yep.
But leadership and management, right? It's very, very different than being in the weeds, would you say?
Oh yeah. Well, and then, leadership and management have two different, jobs as well. And so, managing something is understanding the tasks, understanding the items that need to be completed and on what timeline and who's responsible. And then, when you look at leadership, leadership is a component of the whole package, right? And you have to have leadership and you have to have management, and leadership requires of you to, look outside yourself and look outside to the global picture, the big picture, and really, take a look at the field, if you will, and understand what action needs to happen, who needs help, where do you need to manage, where do you need to, give coaching, where do you need to let go, and give somebody some autonomy to do what they've been asked to do. So it's a tough one.
Yeah, that's great though. I love it. It's very insightful. When you started to have those first initial stumbling blocks, is that when you decided I need to create some clear processes and systems, or how did you kind of morph from there into, I'm going to do this for a living. and I would like to maybe make a process. Or was that maybe even just recently? Like, how did you go through the process?
It's definitely not that simple and definitely not that clear, unfortunately. So, there's one of my favorite authors is Jocko Willink, and he wrote two great books, Extreme Ownership and then Dichotomy of Leadership. And Extreme Ownership talks about, there's no bad teams, there's only bad leaders.
Mm-hmm.
And so, forever I would blame everybody else for my problems. And like, why isn't this rehab the way I wanted it? Why isn't it the timeline that I wanted it? Why haven't we completed it? What did you guys do in the bathroom here? And you know, it's this horrible realization when you all of a sudden sit in the silence and kind of observe what's happening and realize that there's nobody at fault but you. And so I kind of went back and forth between real estate and music for almost a decade. And in 2015 I met my partner, and he and I had this common bond over not just real estate but things that we loved in life and loved to do. And we were lucky, right? We just happened to have two very differing personalities that get along very well, and that's really uncommon. And so but we've still been all over the place and kind of first thinking like, oh gosh, what do I bring to the table? What does he bring to the table? And then our first year of business, we can do, 34 houses in our first full year of business and 74 in our second full year of business. And 2018 was our third full year of business. And we did, right around 100 houses. And it's like, so the scaling is incredible. But if you don't go back and look at what the actual problems are and start to look at like, okay, it's one thing to have a process, but it's another thing to actually follow it. So,
Mm-hmm.
and do we talk about like, okay, well, this is what we want it to look like, but then have you trained the people that you're asking to do it and led them and manage them, to go back to the two words I have written on my paper so far, lead and manage. And what are we actually doing? And, I'm a huge book nut, and, Traction it talks about that integrator is leading, managing, and holding people accountable. And if you start to understand what seat you sit in, like, so for me, I'm not good at that stuff. It's not my role. And when I'm placed in that role, I'm pushed in a way that I'm not as successful as if I'm in making relationships, putting deals together, talking to people like you, Nick, and having conversations about the things that we're passionate about, and then connecting others in the midst of that. And so the process are important, and then you also just have to understand where the weaknesses are, and then you have to understand who you need in your organization to be able to actually make those things happen. Sorry for
Gotcha.
the long-winded statement.
No, I love it. And hey, Traction, it's literally in the office. I just can't reach it on the camera, but I've got it right over
Well,
here too.
I got it right here, buddy. So reach that one. Yeah, books are so important. And actually, it's funny because I mentioned Extreme Ownership, and I think you mentioned Tim Ferriss, and so there's that one.
He's
So we got them all
got them all
covered.
right there. And
Yep.
he's not a sponsor of any of these authors. So
No, I'm not. I'm just extremely, extremely passionate about the books, and I try to read, one or read at least 2 books a month, and then listen to at least a dozen or so podcasts on varying things, because we all have to be learning, right? We have to be
yeah,
growing, and no matter what seat we sit in.
you nailed it. Absolutely. Nathan, a lot of people, and that of our listeners have, a lot of them love when people have really come through a massive struggle. You had a couple stumbling blocks at the beginning too. Was there anything, whether it's at the beginning or in the middle, or that you really either were banging your head against a wall, or something happened and you had to kind of rebuild, or, is there anything you want to share as far as challenges go?
Sure. Well, there's a lot of challenges, and I think people who uh, believe that doing anything of importance, or anything that is, anything that you have a goal with, that there aren't going to be challenges, there aren't going to be failures, you're crazy. And you cannot be afraid of the failure. The failure, what was the book? Obstacle is the way, right? And so early on in my real estate investing career, we went through kind of the first of many trials, which was really kind of the implosion of my business, as many people went through. And so we had, bankruptcy and miscarriage in the same week December of
Oh,
'09, and it's horrible. And it's an uncomfortable place to be. And then you have decisions to make, right? So are you going to learn from that decision? Are you going to learn from that experience? And you're having conversations with my wife too, and like, you want to do what? You want to go back there, like where we just came from, the hell and nightmare that we were in. Uh and ultimately the question for me was like, how can we possibly do that, go through all that, and then not learn the lessons and implement them? So, and then starting a business, and they've mentioned another book, which I don't have sitting by me, by the way, but E-Myth, all of a sudden you hire a couple employees or employee because you're like, man, I need help. My business is growing. We're crushing it, and then you don't have those processes in place, like we talked about early on in this conversation. And then you're frustrated and upset that the outcome's not what it was, quote unquote, supposed to be. And so then, that's been lessons in our business too. And then, from there, it's the learning of what our core focus and core value and core culture is as a company, and protecting it, and obsessing about it, and nurturing it, and loving on it, and breathing into it, and making sure that you ultimately are responsible for that. And so, there's a lot of lessons out there in all those different paths and different experiences, no matter what level or what income or what problem you're solving.
gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I can't believe you went through that too. After '09, what were your first maybe 3 steps that you did to kind of when you finally convinced your wife maybe you were going to get back into it? What were your first 3 steps after that?
It was definitely understand what I wanted. And I've always wanted to have rentals that created income. And then, everything else outside of that, I love doing. I love flipping. I love helping clients turnkey. I love doing it. Obviously, we get paid to do it usually. But I love, when we talk about selling turnkey houses and helping clients build a bridge to wealth and freedom through real estate, which is our mission as a company. I feel that, I try to live that out in my life for my own family and my own legacy. So it's so easy to look at like, okay, well, what are the steps? All right, we'll have to make a decision first. And then I have to figure out, I talk about this a lot, that the clearer your goals are, the clearer the pathway to achieve them is. And if you don't actually write it down, you don't actually look through what are the steps to get there, then you're not going to get there, or it's certainly not in the way that you would if you had planned it. So I literally started talking to every single person that I could find who would loan me any money that I could find, and I harassed everybody. And I got turned down a couple dozen times for private lending, and I finally got one person who I'd literally reached out for years, harassed. His name is Rob, and he's out of Florida, and he has this incredible business. And I'd taken him to lunch years earlier, and I just begged him to come to lunch, begged him to spend some time with me. And you know and all of a sudden he laid out like this incredible business, and the flipping business and lending business and property management and brokerage and all this stuff. And I'm just like, what? You know, what do you mean you have all these things? How is this even possible? And by the way, it's pretty neat. I'm still friends with him to this day, and I still own that first house to this day that he lent on. It's on Harmony Drive, which I thought was pretty cool.
That's
And
cool.
yeah, I still own the house today. And you know, it was interesting because I was talking to him a few months back probably, and I was asking him for advice. And we all need mentors, by the way. Right? It doesn't matter how big your business is, doesn't matter how awesome you think you are. We all need coaches, and
Cheers
in
to that. Yep,
and
absolutely.
in different areas of our life too. So you might be crushing a business, but you might be sucking at home.
Hmm.
And so we need to be aware of those things too. But Rob's like, listen, Nathan, I really don't know why you're calling me. Your business is bigger than mine. You have more people in place to do these things than I do. Like, I don't know what I can do to help you. And it was just like, you know, but I didn't, 10 years ago or 8 years ago, understand the vision of him laying that out and drawing all the things on his business. And mine looks a little different than his does, but certainly we've had very similar paths. And, you never really can fully appreciate those moments that we too, whether it's a conversation you're having or that you're sharing or someone else is sharing, that what kind of impact that's going to have on somebody else. So, my steps were really clear. I have to figure out how to fund this thing. I have to figure out how to buy this thing, and just really kind of catapulted from there. And I started buying one again and two again, and then I managed to get on Bigger Pockets somehow. I'm not sure how or why. And
Oh, we forgot to mention that in your intro. That's right, Bigger Pockets blog contributor. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And actually I've been on their podcast 3 times, and I am pretty sure I will be the first 4-time Bigger Pockets guest. So I have one scheduled here in a couple of weeks to be recorded, and very excited for that.
Boom.
So,
Nice work.
Thanks, man. That'll be cool. And I do write for them as a blogger, and I love writing, and so that's been a real blessing for me. And they're a great company, and they do great things, and so it's been a lot of fun to do that.
That's awesome. That's very cool. So you basically, when you first, and I don't know if Bridge existed back then. When did Bridge come? Was that more recent?
Yep, 2015. So
That's
that was
2015.
Yep.
If we go back a little bit, so you're picking up these turnkey homes, or you're buying, renovating, fixing, flipping, and then renting, and then selling them to end investors. I know that was not even remotely beginning to explain what you actually do, but right, is that like the turnkey strategy? Go ahead, explain the turnkey strategy for people who don't know what that is. Go ahead.
Okay,
please.
sure. Yeah. So, and just to be clear, so now my partner and I own Bridge Turnkey Investments. That's our core business, right? So what it means is we go out and we buy a house that we can fully renovate, and anything that doesn't have a 10-year useful life or more, we fix it or replace it, or we don't buy the house. So that's what that means. And so we go through, we launched the project with a selection sheet. So we've named, like, here's the paint color and tile color, grout color, kitchen appliances, down to the SKUs and everything. And we're not perfect at this, by the way, but we are working every day to literally have it like a factory in that way, that we know exactly every single time what's coming out of the factory, and then we can scale it that way. And no matter what size you are, by the way, if you're doing 10 deals or 5 deals or 100 deals, this is so important, because then what you're actually being held accountable for. So we go through that renovation process, and we launched a job. We run them, say, 5 to 6 weeks, typical runtime for like your average turnkey house. And that's literally HVAC, windows, plumbing, roof. And so we go through and we do our own quality audit at the end. So we have somebody on our staff who's just has a long tenure of being a, not just handyman, but has incredible skills in electricity and plumbing and very high detail. So then we do literally what we call our quality audit, and that's on our team. So we walk the whole property with our foreman and our maintenance guy, and from there we literally hand that off to a third-party inspector. So we've checked it, and now we send it to a third-party inspector. We repair every single item that's on that list. We take a picture of every item that's been repaired, and we label what we've actually done. And then we send it to property management. They check it. They send any audit items they see. And so literally by the time our clients see it, we've gone through the construction process. The GCs have checked it. Our quality audit has happened. We've done a third-party inspection and repaired every single item on that thing. Usually, unless it's something that's maybe like insulation's an inch, not thick enough or whatever. We're like, hey, it's insulated. It looks good. But then we property management, it's leased, and then we sell it to our client. That's literally totally renovated, totally completed, already cash flowing day one when they close on that property.
That's
and then
awesome.
We give them a 12-month warranty.
That was a way better explanation than mine. That was.
Well, I have had to say that a few times, probably more than you. So
when you started to really pick things up, and maybe that was when your partner came on, what was your first 2 or 3 key people you knew you needed? And was that a tough transition?
Yes. Hiring is one of the hardest things in business, period. It's I can't think of anything else because you're dealing with people. People are not perfect. They are not robots. They're not going to just do whatever you want them to do. They have feelings. We can communicate and have conversations differently. We're different types of learners. There's kinesthetic, auditory, and visual learners. So there's all these different things that come into this like weird thing called humanity and people soup that we deal with on a daily basis. And so, for us, we've really struggled in the area of understanding, and it might sound funny since I was talking about leadership at our mastermind, but you know, what does it actually mean to hire somebody? What is their actual job? What is their actual responsibility? And my favorite analogy of that is Jim Collins' Good to Great book, and he talks about the school bus. And you talk about the school bus and the seats on the bus, and those are people responsible, and they have specific tasks. And then you have the leader who sits at the front of the bus, and they're the ones guiding and directing, and the bus is headed in a direction, right? And that's your mission, and that's your goals and all the things. And so that leader at the front of the bus has his or her feet on the pedals and the gas and the brake, and it's like, all right. So hiring is not simple, but the clearer your goals are, first of all, in your company, and then the clearer you understand what the tasks are to do that job. So for us, it was like, okay, well, we need somebody who's really good administratively. And that's a very different personality than, say, somebody who's a great salesperson, right? So you have a really high detail person, and I'm obsessed about the disc profile. I know there's many other of them out there, but that's the one that I've spent the most time on. And so we literally disc profile every single person that we hire in our organization. And actually, we don't even interview people if the disc doesn't match, because it's just we know, and that's only a portion of it. But you have to understand what job you're hiring for, what are the tasks they're responsible for, and then who are they reporting to, and who are they managing. And so I don't know if that was too far outside of your question, but
No.
we
Details are good. Details are good. And we disc everybody as well. I mean, it's just like you said, it's every role also has a personality type, like you just said.
Yep.
So whether they right seat, right person, right traction. So
Yep.
it's administratively, you needed someone really, really powerful to start you off, maybe keep you guys organized. And then
Yep.
from there, you had your construction crew or contractors already working, right? And then,
Yep.
oh no.
Well, we that's also been a struggle too, and kind of understanding, like, it's one thing to have construction on one or two or three projects at one time, but it's a whole different animal, running it at scale. And so every time, you look at the ceiling of saying, like, okay, well, we have one crew, and that crew can do one house, and then they hire a couple more guys and they can do two houses, and all of a sudden, like, these guys are great, you know they can do five, and the contractor's like, money, money, money. And then they're like, we can do that. And all of a sudden you go from two good projects to five really crappy, not completed projects. And then you realize, oh, well, this isn't working. Whose fault is this? And then you realize, oh, okay, well, yeah, this guy, by the way. And then you realize, okay, well, we probably need somebody construction, managing in our office. And then we need more contractors, and what kind of contractors, and what level of GCs, and then how am I developing those relationships, and how do they know what scope to do? And oh gosh, now we're into this same conversation we've been in this whole time, which is, you better be prepared, right? And you better know what you're asking for and the type of person that you need to do that. And so for us, construction, we've really struggled over the time in scaling, and going from literally doing, a few at a time to doing 100 in a year. It's just a totally different problem. And, you're only as good as your processes. You're only good as your people. And you're only good as your leadership. And that's the ultimate ceiling in your organization. If the leader is the cap, and it goes all the way down the chain of command from there. So we really focus on all of those things.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's incredible. That's cool. So, sorry, just to harp again a little bit more. So you had the administrator, the construction for sure. Thank you for sharing that too, because talk about all of us have that same struggle and challenge, right?
Yep.
Um, then you had the administrator helping you organizationally. What were your next maybe one or two key people you knew you needed, and it was just trying to find them and get them in was challenging.
If you don't mind, I'd rather back into it from where we kind of sit now, if that's
Yeah,
okay.
that's great.
Uh, so, because to be honest with you, the hiring has been a really hard lesson, and so I would not say we did it well. Uh, we just didn't, and it was a really unfortunate thing, and it's a hard lesson. And I also think that as we grow and we have little tiny companies, and I can't remember which book it is, but they kind of talk about where you're uh, scaling up, I think is the book actually. And they talk about, you know, uh, you're a baby company and it's your friends who work for you, and then all of a sudden you grow a little bit and then you need some more expert level people. And so you also grow out of people who have certain limits of their capacity and their ability in your organization. And so it's a very difficult thing, and people
Yeah.
underestimate what it takes to do that and the people that it takes to do it. And people by far are your most important resource, and you have to cultivate that. You have to spend time on that. And so in any case, so we have, like I said, we have I think 10 full-time people, and we're really lucky because we actually just hired a full-time marketing person, which is, we have a director of marketing in our company who starts in a couple weeks. And
Nice.
so in our organization, it kind of breaks up in the HR. So we have a full-time, person who's over that. She's our construction administrator and also oversees anything transactions. So we have a full-time transaction coordinator. We have 2 or 3 VAs that work in that coordination of transactions and deals as well. And then on the sales side, we have a sales manager, and then we have a full-time real estate agent under him, and we also have a full-time client advisor for our turnkey folks and dispositions on the wholesale. And then we also have a full-time acquisitions agent on that side as well. And then we have on the construction, we're in the midst of searching for a killer construction manager. So that's a position that we are have open and looking. So construction manager, and then we have a full-time person that literally does estimating, scoping, design and selection. We have a full-time foreman as well who's out in the field and prepping everything. And then we also have a full-time person who is I forgot. We also hired a lead manager, which sits under the sales side of the organization, and then this marketing person, and then our maintenance and quality control person as well. So I don't know how many that is, but I think it's 10.
At least that was good.
Yeah.
That
So that's, and we've really started to look at it, and I and this is something I just learned recently, and I really encourage you, if you're hiring people, start looking at the bottom 20% of the things that we just hired a business coach, and they talked about the like it and love it boxes at the top, and then the I don't like it, I'm not good at it. I think there were 3 technically at the bottom, but I can't remember what they are. But either way, what those things are in your life, or the life of those that are employed by you. And you need to look at that bottom 20% and that I don't like it, I'm not good at it, and hire for that. And I think we
Mhm.
get so wrapped up in what our title is, and it's important, right? We want to have a feeling of belonging, and we want to have a sense of, this is who I am. I'm Nathan Brooks, and CEO of Bridge Turnkey Investments. It's pretty sexy, right? I can say I sound, it sounds cool, but it means nothing without knowing what that actually means to do the job. And to do the job, we have to know what the tasks are, and so on and so forth. So it's definitely one of those things where once we started to recognize and be able to say, this is where we need the most help, and then this is where we need, that we have opportunity, and then kind of meld those things together and take the things off as we grow, and everybody has more things on their plate. Let's take some of those things off the plate, redirect focus, redirect tasks, put people where they like it and love it and are successful at it, and then bring people in who like it and love it in the things that they're now doing.
Amen, brother. Nice work.
Thanks.
What is, in the spirit of Tim Ferriss, as we said
Yeah.
before, what is your favorite purchase you've made that is under $100 in the past 12 or 24 months?
You know, that's an interesting one. I think that the favorite purchase is probably a 22, and that's a little rifle that my son and I. So he first had a BB gun, and I'm I not to make a political statement or anything. I'm not trying to do that, but I've had a lot of amazing time with my son, kind of going and playing and not playing with the rifle, obviously, but learning. And it's interesting how many things that really kind of covers. And so there's time that you have with somebody that you love and care for, and there's skills, there's awareness, there's an emotional intelligence component to that, and then really just kind of growing together. So we have 11.5 acres, we have a shotgun range and cool stuff set up out there, so it's been fun to see him really explore and learn another skill. So it's been fun.
That's fabulous, dude. And this is good that this is a national podcast, because if we were in the state of Massachusetts, they wouldn't even allow us to post this. No, I'm just kidding. But that's aside from the point. No, that's cool.
Yeah. Well, I live in Missouri, and there's lots of people that like to own guns. And again, it's not a political statement by any means, but it's fun and really enjoy it. And we're a hunting and shooting family, and it's just fun to teach your kid and to have those skills and also the responsibility that comes with it. So.
Totally. And I'm on the same page as you, by the way. Yes, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Nathan, what are you super excited about? And how can people reach you too?
I'm excited about sitting in my seat. So one of the lessons for me too has been to sit in my seat and embrace what my job is. And and that is making big relationships. It's connecting culturally in my organization. It's helping my staff. It's mentoring and coaching. It's building, bringing in opportunities and then have focused and clear vision, setting that correctly, and then letting our people, vetting our people, making sure that they're prepared and have the tools to execute. So that's what I'm excited about. Just absolutely launching 2019 in the stratosphere and crushing our goals as a company. And then, I think as far as connecting to me, there's a couple places you can find me on Facebook. It's kind of the most active I am on social media wise. Just Nathan Brooks, and you can check me out on Bigger Pockets as well. There's been a couple podcasts and right there, and then you can check out our Turnkey properties at bridgeturnkey.com, and it's pretty sweet. You can actually adjust the pro forma and actually see real numbers, which is crazy. It's most it's interesting the various pro formas that are out there, and then and then if you want to connect with me and our growing community on Bridge Real Estate Investing Meetup, and we do a pretty cool a live call with people from all over the country. We should get you on there too, man. It's fun. So we have all kinds of cool folks and learning and kind of quick stuff where it's kind of higher detail, digging in. So it's fun to do that as well.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Nathan, I can't thank you enough, man. Thank you so much for being on today.
Thank you, brother. You have a great day, and I hope you crush it in 2019 as well, Nick.
We certainly will.